C10 out for a cruise today. Just gonna go around town and talk a little bit about the truck. Now, I have owned this truck for about a year now, and in that year, this was my daily driver for about 7 or 8 of those months. So I've got to learn this truck pretty good, and I want to talk about, first off, why I decided to daily drive a classic like the C10, and why I'm no longer daily driving a classic. Alright, we are cruising. So if you didn't see the last video, I modified the exhaust. I cut off the rusted portion of it, put a little turn down so it's dumping right behind my seat, right in the center, and I can definitely hear it. Probably not the best sounding, and it's still very not loud, so still waiting to see if anyone knows if that was a catalytic converter restricting sound or if that was a muffler that I didn't recognize. So, but back to what we're talking about. So this is my daily driver, but before I tell you why I stopped daily driving, I need to tell you why I started daily driving the classic. Now, I needed a truck. I had a 2001 Dodge Dakota before this. That was my daily driver, that was my truck. And I had no problems with it. It was a good, small truck, but nothing wrong with it. My only complaint, and what led me to get into classics, was being a male, under 25 years old, insurance is expensive. I was paying about $150 a month on insurance just for that Dakota. Now, classic car insurance is much, much cheaper, because they know you're not driving that every day. They know you're careful because it's your baby. So if your situation allows for you to have a classic car and make that your driver, this is where it kind of makes sense, and this is where it made sense for me. Now, I don't drive every single day. I drive maybe twice a week, maybe 3 times a week, and I don't go very far. This is why this situation works for me. Now, how much do you really save on classic car insurance? The Dakota was $150 for me a month. This C10, 75 C10, is about $45 a month for me. That's where the difference is. So I had that Dakota for 13 months. If I would have instead had this truck for 13 months and using that, 13 months of 150 is $1950. 13 months of 45, I think it was like 600 or 700, maybe 400 or 500. It's much, much cheaper, over $1,000 or about $1,000 cheaper. That's a big difference, especially if it's something you're planning to keep over time. Which I know I need a truck, and I'm gonna have to have a truck for a while. So basically, my decision of getting a classic vehicle came down to insurance is just that much cheaper. This year I turned 25. We'll see what my premiums go down to, and maybe it won't matter anymore. Now, I'll make a whole video on whether or not you should drive a classic as your driver. But just real quick, if your situation allows it, that being if you're a mechanic and you can handle light repairs, you can handle doing your own maintenance, that's where it really makes sense to do a classic. Because if you can't do at least your own maintenance and at least do some simple repairs, maybe you can't diagnose, but maybe you can repair. If you can't do that, it's not going to make sense to own a classic just straight up, because they're going to require work. I mean, even newer cars require work, but classics just, they're old, so they need that maintenance to be brought up to speed of what they should be. Besides the obvious of repairs, the other thing you gotta think of if you're considering getting a classic and getting rid of a modern vehicle, comfortability. Even though this truck does everything I need, it's not as comfortable as a more modern car, even an early 2000s car. It's not comfortable, and it never will be. Even if you customize it completely, it's just not gonna be as comfortable as a stock, modern, 2000 plus car. Even the 90s probably. But if you can live with that, driving a classic can make sense. instead of my Dakota, the modern vehicle. AC. This truck doesn't have working AC. Now I can fix the AC and get it into it, but I don't have AC. I bought this truck at the tail end of summer. Summer is now, and it's getting hot. That brings us to, why am I not daily driving this Classic anymore? Now, I did not stop daily driving